English enthusiasts, welcome back to another lesson on collocation, which is another fancy way to say combinations. For some reasons, some words in English have probability of occurring together, which by mastering and using these words, you'll make your English richer and more expressive. In other words, they are the bread and butter of English fluency. What I like best about learning collocation is learning 2 or 3 words instead of just one word in isolation. So once you learn to apply these kind of phrases in your speaking and writing, they will provide you with more details and nuance in your descriptions and statements. As you might already know, there are different types of collocation, but in this video, I'm going to focus on adverb-adjective collocations. To supercharge your English fluency, let's get started. Here is our first one in our list. Painstakingly. Painstakingly detailed in a way that it has been done with a lot of details and efforts. For example, this book is a masterpiece. It's been painstakingly detailed. It can be also collocated with other words. Painstakingly detailed, painstakingly prepared, painstakingly explained, painstakingly investigated, painstakingly restored, painstakingly recreated, or painstakingly designed.
Hi, I painstakingly combed through everything in the system and found this.
Where would you suggest that I mail this painstakingly authentic letter?
Our next one is relatively. Relatively means quite good, bad, or etc. in comparison with other similar things or with what you expect. For example, the beautiful old towns have remained relatively untouched by tourism. Relatively inexpensive, relatively untouched, relatively easy, relatively small, or relatively low.
Clearly, something relatively devastating happening this morning there in the south end of the island.
And a relatively calm sea for 30.
Here is the third one. Sorely. Sorely means to a very high degree or level of intensity. My daughter is currently studying in Italy and she's sorely missed. Here is the list of words that you can collocate solely with. Sorely tempted, sorely needed, or sorely mistaken.
You'll be sorely missed. Heal yourself. And come back.
That's something the world sorely needs.
If Ferris thinks that he can just coast through this month and still graduate, he is sorely mistaken.
And here is the next one. Scrupulously. Scrupulously means in a way that you are careful to do the morally right thing. For example, he's scrupulously honest and he kept his words all the time. Scrupulously honest, scrupulously fair, and scrupulously clean.
And scrupulously clean, as you will observe.
I want everything on the record, scrupulously recorded.
Here is number 5. Patently. Patently means in a clear, obvious way. For example, it was patently obvious that she was lying. Patently obvious, patently false, patently concerned, patently incoherent, patently unfair, and patently clear.
That's patently absurd. I'm not even human.
Actually, it's the most patently egregious martini I've ever tasted.
Let's move on to the next word. Eternally grateful. Eternally grateful is used for strongly showing or expressing thanks. For example, he remains eternally grateful to the teacher whose advice changed his life.
And for that day, I am eternally grateful.
You made me a man by loving me, Holly. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
Number 7. Excessively. For example, excessively risky. Excessively means in a way that is too much. For example, the surgery is considered excessively risky because of the location of the tumor. Excessively risky or excessively loud.
Well,
Excessively charming, I thought.
I am really excessively tired.
Here is number 8 in our list, painfully. For example, painfully aware. Painfully is used to emphasize the quality, action, or a situation that is considered unpleasant or unwanted. I'm painfully aware that I have made a big mistake. Here are the collocations. Painfully shy, painfully thin, painfully slow, or painfully aware.
Jesus, that was painfully unremarkable.
And Lahore reporting ISI was painfully slow last night, again.
Let's move on to number 9. Excruciatingly. For example, excruciatingly difficult. A very extreme and difficult way to bear. I found being a mother excruciatingly difficult.
I find all this excruciatingly personal, and I'm not staying.
As excruciatingly difficult as the last 2 weeks have been.
You can also collocate it with other words. Excruciatingly painful, excruciatingly uncomfortable, excruciatingly embarrassing, excruciatingly boring, excruciatingly funny. Here is number 10, woefully. For example, woefully deficient. Woefully is used to emphasize how bad a situation is. For example, the amount of nutrition available in these households was woefully deficient. Woefully inadequate, woefully insufficient, woefully premature, woefully incomplete, woefully deficient, woefully reductive, woefully unexploited, woefully ineffective, woefully outdated, woefully misspecified.
But I regret to say we are woefully understaffed for a house this size.
Yet with science so woefully behind in cloning technology, I can only be in one place at a time.
Authenticity is in woefully short supply.
Here is number 11, readily. Readily accessible. Readily means quickly, immediately, willingly, and without any problems. For example, all of our files are readily accessible for you to download. Readily accessible, readily available, readily adopted.
Man does not forget a woman as readily as he forget us.
This one I wouldn't readily forget.
Let's move on to number 12, prohibitively. For example, prohibitively expensive. It means in a way that is too expensive or that is too much. Property in this area tends to be prohibitively expensive. Prohibitively expensive, prohibitively large.
True, but procedures like that would be prohibitively expensive.
The lease has gotten prohibitively expensive, and unless you want to camp out in the kitchen.
Here is number 13, virtually. Virtually means almost. For example, learning English in 3 months is virtually impossible. Here are the collocations. Virtually impossible, virtually ignored, virtually finished, and virtually identical.
I've been virtually under house arrest.
Virtually gone is the blue whale, the largest creature ever to inhabit the earth.
Here is number 14 in our list, which is totally self-explanatory. Conveniently located. Our house is conveniently located near the station.
Mostly I like to hang out at a little bar I know, conveniently located in my backyard.
My associates and I have offices conveniently located throughout the tri-state area.
Here is number 15. Sparsely populated, with only a small number or amount of people or thing. For example, Sabzawar is sparsely populated. And in case you're curious to know where Sabzawar is a really small historical city in the northeast of Iran in Khorasan Razavi, which used to be called Sarbedaran. Here is number 16, hysterically funny. Hysterically funny means without being able to control your feeling and behavior because you are extremely frightened, angry, or excited. Or in other words, you can say extremely funny. He is one of the most hysterically funny I've ever met in my life.
Farting is hysterically funny.
What about kind of cute, kind of hot, kind of sexy, hysterically funny, but not funny looking guy who you could fuck Did you not understand?
Here is our number 17. Blissfully unever. Without knowing any of the unpleasant facts of something. For example, all this time I was blissfully unaware of this situation. Blissfully unaware, blissfully happy, blissfully ignorant.
Blissfully ignorant, aren't you?
Blissfully untrained, unversed, and unprepared to even attempt real art.
Let's move on to number 18. Cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic means feeling that there are some good reasons to hope for a good result, even if you don't expect the complete success or improvement. For instance, he said he was cautiously optimistic, predicting some growth in this new year.
The atmosphere here is cautiously optimistic.
And I, for one, must admit to being cautiously optimistic.
Let's move on to number 19. Desperately. Desperately in a way that shows you are ready to do everything to change the situation. I was desperately eager to learn English when I was so young. Or desperately disappointed that he couldn't make it to my wedding party.
She insists he desperately needs special care, but it is to no avail.
More desperately than my children need me. A way of seeing in the dark.
Here is number 20. Randomly. Randomly means in a way that it has been done or it has been chosen by chance rather than according to the plan. For example, all of my books have been randomly arranged in my shelf. Randomly arranged, randomly assigned, randomly chosen, randomly selected.
Halliday made sure the Oasis was littered with enough randomly powerful stuff that anyone could win if they had the skills.
Search randomly for calls made from the area.
5 words, randomly selected for additional screening.
Here is the 21 in our list. Impeccably tidy, impeccably clean. Impeccably means in a very perfect way without any problems. My room is impeccably clean, or the airport was new, impressive, and impeccably clean. Impeccably tidy, impeccably clean, impeccably dressed.
Always impeccably dressed. He spent the days just, being Uncle Desmond.
What? If none of their souls were saved, they went to their maker impeccably shaved. My sweetie.
Here is the 22nd one in our list. Mildly. Mildly means slightly. For instance, mildly amused or mildly surprised. I was mildly surprised to see him at the party.
I think you're mildly sprained.
That you can't marry them, which seems mildly absurd to me.
Here is the 23rd one in our list. Exceedingly. For instance, he was clever, handsome, and exceedingly rich. Here are the collocations. Exceedingly happy, exceedingly rich, exceedingly harmful.
I have sinned exceedingly against you.
My troth, I am exceedingly ill.
As for the why, beyond the obvious financial motivation, it's exceedingly simple.
Okay, here is the 24th one in our list. Thoroughly. Thoroughly spoiled. Which means very greatly and very much. For example, the movie left me thoroughly confused about its real meaning. Or she was thoroughly spoiled by her two-faced husband.
That's a profession of which I thoroughly disapprove.
We walked back to the barracks last night, all of us thoroughly exhausted.
And here is our last one in the list. Strictly. Strictly forbidden. Strictly forbidden is used in a way that would bring severe punishment if not obeyed. The use of cameras in this museum is strictly forbidden. Strictly confidential, strictly prohibited, strictly controlled, or strictly limited.
Well, our relationship was strictly reporter-subject.
Outsiders are strictly forbidden.
Most strictly controlled, all money business going.
Now it's the time to test yourself. Let's see how you're doing and how many of them you remember. let me know down below in the comment how you did in the test. The idea isn't for you to memorize all of these ones. This is just getting that exposure so that you know which words go with each other. I'm eternally grateful you keep backing to my channel. There is also like and subscribe button conveniently located down below in this video. Go ahead, like and subscribe and turn on all notifications and hit that bell button which is readily accessible for you down below so you don't miss any other uploads. If you're an avid learner and you want me cover any kind of subjects, I'll be desperately eager to know what you're interested in. There is also a PDF readily accessible for you down below in the descriptions. Click on that and download it for free and enjoy. Try to be actively involved in sharing your own examples in the comments. I will check them and I will let you know how you're doing. Thanks for watching and keep practicing. I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next video.